This has been one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and Ethos finally has production level models of the Dunamis hitting the streets. Being anything but ordinary, not only does this 14mm Kevlar paddle feature a very unique layout, color scheme, and come fully loaded with one of the best delivery box sets I've seen to date, it's also one of the single quickest, most aggressive, and pop heavy paddles of its shape. And while using this channel's discount code PBMED15, you can take 15% off the price of a Dunamis, bringing its final price to $152. This is a price I think is more than fair considering how this paddle plays and just the plain uniqueness it brings to the market. Ethos does have a 30-day return policy, and it's notable there is a 20% restocking fee associated with it, which would come to around $30. So if a person does order a Dunamis and decide they want to return it after playing with it, it would be somewhat like paying $30 for a 30-day demo period. I'll get into a deeper breakdown of this paddle's stats and specs, and then we'll get into the playability of it. The Dunamis has a face constructed via a thermoformed Kevlar carbon fiber blend in either the pink layout that I ordered or the white ones you can see on the website, and is among only a handful of 14mm Kevlar paddles currently in circulation. It has the English spelling of Dunamis on one side of the paddle face and Greek spelling on the back. And though I'm no expert on Greek philosophy, a quick Google search will associate the word Dunamis with power, force, and ability. Overall, it measures 16 inches by 8 inches, putting it in the standard shape category, with a handle that has a deceptively short official measurement of 5.35 inches, and considering the somewhat teardrop shape of the tapered paddle face, that handle gives plenty of room for perceived reach and more than enough room for two hands. Though the pre-production Dunamis I was using before was already very maneuverable, the production level Dunamis paddle reached a whole new level of maneuverability, coming in with a raw weight of 7.6 ounces, a swing weight of 99, and a twist weight of 6.21. As of right now, this is the only paddle in my entire database with a swing weight below 100, and though a twist weight of 6.21 by itself is pretty good but not quite elite in terms of associated stability, for a paddle as quick as the Dunamis, it's quite remarkable. To further put this into context, I'll reference something Lewis from Pickleball Pursuit and our friend Justin Barton came up with called a Maneuverability Score. This is a numerical value resulting from an equation that takes into account a paddle's static weight, swing weight, twist weight, and balance point, and indicates how maneuverable a paddle is overall. The score range goes roughly from 0 to 100, with the lower numbers being more maneuverable and the higher numbers being less maneuverable. As a scale of reference, the 14.3mm Paddletech Annalee Water C scored a 4, the 14mm Mach 2 Forza is a 33, the 16mm Double Black Diamond is right in the middle at 50, and a heavy feeling paddle like the Protein Series 1 Type B is a 93. On this scale, the 14mm Ethos Dunamis scored an 8, putting it at an absolute elite level of maneuverability, more so even than paddles like the Laser 16S, Mach 2 Forza, or the Spartus Apollo. So considering how fast this paddle really is, it felt surprisingly stable. But as a person who hits off the sweet spot quite a bit with my horrible eyesight, I did think that in order to reach a really high level of stability, it did need some lead tape to bolster the sweet spot a bit, which I had plenty of room to do so with the ultra high maneuverability. I ended up doing a thin wrap of 0.5 grams per inch lead tape around the whole paddle, which brought the swing weight from 99 to 108 and the twist weight from 6.21 to above that 7 mark to 7.21, substantially increasing its stability. And even with that lead tape, it remained very maneuverable with a swing weight that was lower than the stock swing weights of other Kevlar paddles like the Spartus Apollo or the 11.624 Monarch Control, and with the lead tape, it equaled the swing weight of the 14mm Mage Pro Gen 2. Out of the box, the face of the Dunamis actually felt pretty smooth. I wasn't sure how the spin would be considering it didn't feel very gritty, and I'm not sure if it was the easy maneuverability of the paddle or just the paddle material itself, but spin was still on par with most other good paddles in the industry right now, with RPMs just crossing that 2000 RPM threshold. I think it's also worth noting that the delivery box the Dunamis comes in may be the most impressive one that I've seen to date and is unique in its own way. And that's not an easy thing to say comparing it to boxes that come from companies like Bread and Butter or Volair. In multiple side-by-side pop comparisons, where I line comparable paddles up and hit them in real time, rearranging them up and down in order based on their pop, the Dunamis has consistently been on the very top end for both wide body and standard shaped Kevlar paddles, with the only other comparably shaped Kevlar paddle having higher levels of pop being the Beatnik Space Blade. This was certainly very notable in gameplay, as I regularly play with multiple paddles on the same day, and I've had multiple people comment on the pop levels of the Dunamis compared to some of the other paddles I had played with. Now, it's certainly not foam containing pop level, and it is still lower in pop than some other heavy hitters like the Engage Pursuit Pro series, but the speed of the Dunamis in your hand, combined with the pop and flex in the handle, makes this thing crazy fun in firefights and hands battles. Like I mentioned before, for a 14mm paddle, it's got good stability and sweet spot size, but I did feel I needed some lead tape to increase its stability on the edges and widen the sweet spot. By comparison, I would say the 14mm J2K has a slightly bigger sweet spot, but the Dunamis felt more stable than, say, the 14mm Mage Pro Gen 2. In my personal experience, and like a lot of paddles with good pop, the control was a little dependent on weather, ball type, temperature, etc. I felt like it was plenty easy to control with heavier balls like Franklin's or Vulcans, or when playing in hot temperatures, but when it was cold and playing with Duros, and control being probably the weakest part of my game, it certainly required a lot more focus to keep the ball playing soft in those conditions. The face has more of a stiff feel, a lot like the 14mm J2K or the Gruvin Laser 16S, which did give it a very consistent feel and response when hitting balls of various speeds and shots. Overall, I was very impressed with the Dunamis, and I'm really happy about the improvements Ethos has made compared to some of their previous models. I think a lot of people are going to be really happy with this paddle and find it to be a fun, easy to attack with paddle, and people who are going to particularly like this paddle are people who like high maneuverability, good pop, and a paddle with a really unique look and design. You may not like this paddle, however, if you need a paddle with a huge sweet spot or stability like the Bread and Butter Fat Boy, or if you don't like the feel of a stiffer paddle face. That's my take on the new 14mm Kevlar Ethos Dunamis paddle. I hope this review was helpful, and if it was, hit that subscribe button and I'll catch you here for the next one.